I'd go to town with it. Each bit would be spun from spider web, stitched together with silk, just so someone can wipe their ass on it.
Reality is a construct of perception. Carl is a construct of coffee and bad life choices. Here they meet in Carl versus Reality.
Hello and thank you for joining me for this very first episode of Carl versus Reality. Guess what? My name is Carl, and this podcast is basically some bloke in a room talking about stuff, and that's it. That's basically the entire premise. The plan is I'm not going to really sort of focus on the serious stuff. I want to sort of have it so it's a bit more of a light-hearted, silly side of life, because it's just miserable out there, isn't it? You go online, you read all the crap, you're like, oh, I don't want to read this. It's just shit. You just don't want to listen to it. So I'm here to basically just try and share a bit about myself and also some of the things that I have been finding on the internet, which isn't all about death and other bits and pieces. So, I had to look after my girlfriend recently because she wasn't very well, bless her. Don't know what was up with her, but she ended up having like a fever for a good few days, and it wasn't good, really. She was not well, and basically just had to look after her. She was off her food, she wasn't drinking. Obviously, I was making sure. I was a good nurse, made sure she was doing all the bits and pieces to make her feel better and all that kind of thing. Just as a loving boyfriend should be doing. And after a few days of sort of caring for her, she sort of perked up a little bit, and I was like, well, is there anything I can do for you? Like, is there anything you really, really fancy? Because I've always been the firm believer of if you're unwell and you really are craving something, that's your body's way of telling you, you need this in your life, or you need this to feel better. I often fancy orange juice or crackers or cheese, something like that. There's something in those things which always make me feel better. Not sure what those things are specifically, but it's just what I believe. And so we're on the sofa. I was like, right now, what do you fancy? Because she's like, I feel a bit hungry. So what did you want? What did you want right now? And she went, well, it's pumpkin spice latte season. No, Starbucks. I was like, of course, I will get you Starbucks. As you know, I love a coffee. So I thought, yes, sweet. I'll get her some coffees. Now, the thing is with me is I actually don't drive. I'm a pedestrian. So, it's more of a case of having to order it in kind of thing, because I don't drive. The nearest Starbucks to where we live is actually quite far. So it'd be a bit pointless trying to get this nice coffee back and all that. So, anyway, so I'm on the app and all this kind of stuff. I'm looking at like 2 large pumpkin spice lattes and 2. They've got a pumpkin spice cake. Fancy some of that, love? Okay, we'll whack some of that in too. And I found out on these apps that you can leave a tip. I didn't leave a tip for one of these people once, and they muttered under their breath when I opened the door, "Cheapskate." So I always make sure I check there, like give them a bit of a tip and all that kind of stuff, because you don't want them messing with your food, kind of thing, And sort of, she didn't really appreciate. She sort of really perked up the idea she's getting a Starbucks and this kind of stuff. And I go to check out. So there's 2 large pumpkin spice lattes and 2 slices of pumpkin spice loaf. And I shit you not, it came to over £30. 30 quid. I was like, it obviously didn't sound loud. I was like, good job, I love you for this. That's 30 quid for 2 coffees and 2 cakes. What is this? What planet are we on? But, so it came and all that kind of stuff. We had it. And I'm sitting there thinking, don't drink it too quickly, Carl, because that is probably the most expensive coffee you've ever bought. But yeah, it's one of those things now where it's almost like a joke between us. Like, we'll go out somewhere and they're like, oh, that's a Starbucks. Like, I went to a pub literally like last week, and the round, which was I think 7 drinks, was like 40 quid. I'm like, that's just over a Starbucks. And it's now like a measurement of price, because that's just how we do things. We're going to go to a gig soon. Those tickets were the same price as a Starbucks. One ticket to go to a gig is the same as 2 Starbucks. But yeah. Anyway, it's not the most expensive coffee in the world, because I found this news article about the world's most expensive coffee, because it's actually recently, a record has actually been set for the world's most expensive coffee. The Guinness World Record for the most expensive coffee was set on the 13th of September this year, 2025, and it costs, you ready for this? £504 roughly. It was actually set in a place in Dubai called Roasters. It's their flagship downtown Dubai store, and it's like, okay, 500 quid for a coffee. There's me quibbling about 30 quid. But yeah, what made it the most expensive coffee was the beans. Now, the thing about these beans is that there's an auction recently for a 20 kilogram bag of these beans. The beans were called, I think they're geisha, the Panama geisha from the Hacienda La Esmeralda. And this 20 kilogram bag was sold for approximately £450,000. That's just over $600,000. And works out roughly about £23 a gram. Pretty sure cocaine's probably cheaper than that. I wouldn't know. But, that's what I'm imagining. And, it's just, I don't understand why that is, apparently are they hand washed or something like that? I have no idea why those beans are so expensive, but there we go. So obviously the beans were done and dusted and all that kind of stuff. Well, not dust, they were ground up. And it was hand poured, the V60 method. That's basically when you get a cone, like a filter coffee, and a temperature controlled kettle was prepared table side. And I don't understand. So far, it's basically someone is basically making a cup of coffee with a temperature. I understand there's a lot that goes into coffee. I'm a bit of a coffee nerd, I can't lie. I love a cup of coffee. But yeah, I would never spend that much money on a coffee. It was served, you ready for this, in a cut crystal glass from Japan. I think it's pronounced Edo Karaiko. There we go. Let's go for that. It's I'm going to imagine for that you'd probably get to keep the cup, because that's quite a lot of money, And on the side, obviously, just to make sure that it was worth the cash, there was a slice of tiramisu and chocolate ice cream. The tiramisu was actually infused with the same beans, so I would bloody hope so. It's just unbelievable, But yeah, the thing is with it also is that the buyer stayed anonymous. Now, I'm not saying there's some funny business going on here, but why would you want to stay anonymous? I guess you want to stay anonymous for the fact that you don't want to be known as the person who spent that much money on a cup of coffee and a tiramisu, or it was I'm going to say it. Possibly, I don't want to get sued. All I'm saying is that if I was going to have a very expensive thing, I'd get a mate to buy it and I'd give them the money for it. And obviously get it back. But anyway, so that's basically that whole thing. Now, you're probably wondering to yourself, what does that coffee taste like? What would a £500 coffee taste like? I wouldn't know. I'm sort of very basic. I like a nice sort of just a normal... I like a nice 70-30 blend of Robusta and Arabica. 30% Robusta. But apparently it tastes it's sort of very jasmine-y, like quite citrusy with the lemon sort of flavours. Maybe a bit like peach, pineapple, guava, raspberry, and other bits and pieces. Other sort of things that it might taste like lemongrass and bergamot and all these other bits and pieces. But yeah, I don't understand that whole, just going to all the effort for a world record. I I mean, I don't know what I would ever want a world record for, really. I wouldn't want to be the person who has spent that much money on a cup of coffee. I mean, who does it go to? The person who bought it? The person who sold it? I mean, it's just like... I actually might try and start a world record, like the world's most expensive toilet roll, or, something like that. Something ridiculous. I'd actually hand stitch it together. I'd go to town with it. Each bit would be spun from spider web, stitched together with silk, just so someone can wipe their ass on it. Something like that. Have a look at the logistics about that. Anyway, I'm waffling on as something that you will find that I'll do quite a lot. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to this very first episode of the podcast. Back again soon. Don't know when, but I will. Until then, take care and ta-ta.